Bienvenue au podcast Phase d'activation. Tonight, we have a very, very special guest. We have Julie,
Hello.
the author.
Hello.
Yes, the author of both Age of Chivalry and Age of Invasions. So we're very happy to have you on the podcast tonight, and we're looking forward to discussing all things Age of Chivalry. You were very kind to send us the boards and kind of a draft version about a month ago, so we could have a look at everything. And tonight we're hoping to dive into the Age of Chivalry and get people hyped for the upcoming release. So thank you very much for your time, and let's get on with it.
Just one thing real quick. I thought it was because, JP, you just said it. Yeah, and you are one of the authors of the Age of Invasions book, if I understand correctly. And that's my favorite book by like a lot. And I'm so happy with that book. And so I'm very excited that you're the author, or one of the authors, for the Chivalry book. And super happy to talk about it all today. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's very encouraging to hear such thing. So
perfect.
Great.
Cool. All right, JP, you want to start us off?
Yes. Kind of one very, very generic and easy question to start off. How did you get into writing this book? Was it by diktat from Alex, or were you always planning on writing this book?
No tyranny from Alex on this plan. No, I think with Age of Invasion we have tasted to developing a supplement, and it pleased us very much. So I don't know why, but we made a second one. And the 100 years war. I will get it. The 100 years war period is one of the favorite period of Alex, so he was very happy to let us develop it, and he is pretty happy with what we have done so far. So it's great.
Perfect.
And at the moment, when we're recording this, so it's end of January, can you give us maybe a brief glimpse as to where you are in the development process?
Yeah, so we have finished the test phase. Now we are finishing all the writing. We just have 2 chapters and a half to finish, so it's quite nothing. We have 17 chapters on this book. I think it will be over in February next month. Normally the release should be released the second half of this year. But yes, for the moment I don't know exactly. Perhaps before summer, before July, or perhaps September, October. I don't know yet.
All right, then we'll just keep on hoping to see the book as soon as possible, because I think it's fair to say that these factions are incredibly cool, and I'm so looking forward for to actually play them on a tournament. And JP, I think you have your hopes high to have your tournament in September. I think it is to feature the Age of Chivalry. So we'll have to see if that works out, I guess.
Yeah. I've got my tournament 20th of September, so I haven't opened the registrations yet. But
you should light candles in church.
I will.
To call for a miracle.
No, I'm sure everything will come. Will arrive in time. If not, I'll just move it up 1 quarter. It's not a big deal. The main reason I wanted to lock down the Grand Chevauché as a name for the Age of Chivalry tournaments. So I'm happy I could have claimed it, but that's fine. Yeah, so we have a whole set of questions that we want to get through. So, Tim,
yes,
want to move on to the next one?
Yes. So the just to give a before we get into just to give an agenda for today for today's episode, right? We're just going to talk about some of the some general questions and just see maybe get some knowledge from you, Julie, to see just these basic questions, and then we'll have some faction specific questions for you, some fun facts that we think are notable or interesting. And then we're going to talk. Lastly, we're going to talk about what faction we're looking to play ourselves. So let's start with more general questions. And Julie, what time period roughly, like in for an estimate, what time period does this book cover? So
It covers the 100 Years' War, so beginning of the 14th century. And it finishes with the end of the 15th century with the Burgundian Wars, for example, and the Hussite Wars. So mainly the end of the Middle Ages. It makes a link with it comes just after Age of Crusades.
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And then, in terms of kind of the feeling that you're trying to capture with this book, because in Age of Invasions, and I think you were inspired by the Bernard Cromwell books.
Yeah.
With can't remember which series this was with the Arthur. Did you have a specific? I think Bernard Cromwell. Is it Cornwell? Cornwell. He also has a 100 Years War book. Were you inspired by him again for this period?
No, I haven't read it, so not this time. So for people to know, I have developed the book with my husband Fabien, and during his studies at the university, he has studied the Burgundian state at the end of the Middle Ages, during the period of Charles the Bold. So he was very fond of Middle Ages. He had solid knowledge of the period, and I was interested in this period of history too. So it's more this time it was not a work of fiction who brought us here. It was more history itself.
Oh, I'm sure that there's going to be lots of Saga players that love to hear that. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Go on.
No, it's good. It's good. And I must say that generally movies, for example, on the Middle Ages are full of cliché and are not very satisfying when you love this period.
I see.
Did you? So you're staying away from maybe the movie, the books, and then digging deeper into the history for this particular segment or this particular era. Is that correct?
Yes. We have tried to read some book of the period, like the Chronicles of Froissart and other author, and to find anecdote or some events that could inspire us and give us idea for the names of the abilities sometimes.
That's pretty cool. So talking about you reading through these books, just a quick question: when you decided on these factions and which factions to include and exclude, I mean, we've seen them now, and me as a non-history smart person, even to me, this looks like it's pretty much like Central Europe. And so the question is, how was that process to decide which factions to include and which factions to exclude? And also, and I hope that's okay question to ask, is this possibly a first part of a trilogy, maybe with more factions in this time frame coming? So 2 questions at the same time. I'm sorry, Julie.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sure you'll be fine. Please go ahead.
Can do it.
Okay, cool.
So I don't think we will make a trilogy for the moment. 36 faction would be too much. 12 factions in a row is a big work.
Yeah, I'm
Compared
sure.
to
Yes.
Age of Invasions, yes, it was a lot of work, but we have done it. For the inclusion of the factions, firstly, we wanted to make only 100 Years War, so we had planned 6 factions, then 8, and by discussing with Alex, we wonder if it was a better idea to make a bigger supplement with more faction, but to cover Western Europe in general. And with Fabien, we said, "Oh yes, we could do that." And finally, we have included factions who have not participated directly in the 100 Years War.
I see. Okay. So
Yeah.
okay. So you came from a smaller supplement into a now bigger supplement with 12 factions, which is amazing,
Yeah.
by the way. And okay, makes sense. Thank you.
And and to choose the faction itself themselves, I think there is a bit of personal choice. For example, the Duchy of Brittany. I don't know if English players, for example, are really interested in it, or I don't know. And sometimes it's also what players expect when you cover this period.
And I think I think what you said with the Duchy of Brittany was maybe a surprise also for me, but I'm less maybe up to date or read with the 100 Years War. But then when I was painting my warbands, I started kind of putting on YouTube in the background and with 100 Years War content and learning more and more about it. So it's always like a really good way of learning history. And doing hobby stuff and playing Saga at the same time. So I'm glad you put in some of these slightly different factions as well. And we'll talk about all the factions maybe later on.
Yeah.
And maybe to follow up on what's playable, are you planning on including old friends and new enemies like you have in some of the other books?
Not this time. I'm sorry, JP. I know you love this kind of faction.
It's fine. It'll be a player or a tournament organizer specific factions being put in, but that's it hurts me. So I'm gonna have to recover.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
it's
have to
fine.
recover.
Yeah.
I can go on, JP. Don't worry. I know you're going to be crying in a corner for a bit, but it's okay. You always love these old friends and enemies. Anyways, so this age kind of goes into gunpowder at some point, right? And so the question is, how difficult was it to combine the transition of the different weapons and to include gunpowder in a way?
How to say that? For gunpowder, we at this time effectively armies began to use gunpowder for siege or on a battlefield, even if it was rare. And to represent them, but without having a player fielding, 3 points of gunpowder on 6-point armies.
Yeah.
We have chosen to include them as mercenary units. So they are limited in number, but they are present for this period.
I think that's such a perfect way to do this because yes, whole armies were not equipped with gunpowder by that time, right? But small pieces, utility pieces were. So that's really, really cool.
Yes, or maybe small cannons on wagons were. Who knows?
Let's talk about that later. Yeah.
Yeah, and we also one noticeable thing is the lack of heavy weapons.
Yeah.
Once you start building the Perry plastic kits, you see that almost everyone has what would be described as a kind of a heavy weapon in other Saga ages. and the rules are missing. What's going on there, Julie?
Yeah. We have made a special paragraph in the book to explain that because we know player will ask why. We took the decision quite early when in the development of the book because at this stage with the development of armor, people tend to abandon shields and to rely on their armor to fight. So they have heavier weapons than in Viking Age, for example, where you have shield walls, so everyone has a spear and a shield. And we told ourselves, if everyone has heavy weapon, so it's the normal weapon of the age. So, and moreover, from a mechanical point of view, if you give heavy weapon to all warrior and Earthguard, it would have been a pretty blood.
Yeah, that's very deadly. Very
deadly age.
Yeah.
With Earthguard against Earthguard, who would have hit on 3+ in every fight. So it was not very interesting from our point of view.
Yeah. I'm obviously bummed the same way that JP is bummed about all friends, new enemies. I'm bummed about not having heavy weapons because I think they're probably one of the bread and butter, like normal, super good equipment pieces that I love to take on my dudes. But hey, I think the decision you made makes tons of sense and is very probably makes for a better game. And I think that's exactly your job and so perfect. And I will be fine. So,
Okay.
As will JP, by the way. As will be JP. We'll be fine. Thank you.
You're luckier than JP because you have one mercenary unit with heavy weapon. If you're really missing them.
Yes. I will talk to them and to them only. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. So for the for now that we're already hyped that there is a mercenary unit with heavy weapons, tell us about the faction that hyped you the most. What is your personal favorite faction? And yes,
it's a difficult question because I love all of them. I can dislike any of them. I give them love to every one of them.
So I guess your husband's favorite faction is probably the faction that he worked on most in his studies.
Yeah, the Burgundians.
The Burgundians, that's right. Yeah, and
yeah, Burgundians are fun.
And so, if you had to pick one or two, maybe I'll give you two. What are your two favorite?
Two.
I think yes, two.
Okay, I will try.
Okay.
French because they are fun. They charge, they shoot. I don't know. The three companies. We call them écorcheurs, the flayers, in the French version. These are the soldiers who try to pay themselves because generally during sometimes they were not paid by their employer, so they took castles. There is even one day when one band of free companies have captured the Pope in Avignon. Yeah. And the battleboard is pretty vicious like them.
I am very interested in that battleboard, by the way. Yeah, I think
sounds pretty lucrative as well to kidnap the Pope. So good move.
That's free money right there.
And maybe on the flip side of that, which faction created the biggest headaches when you're trying to make this supplement?
Yeah, the Italians.
That's why we got them so late.
Yes, because we have changed their concept at least 5 times. And each time we were like, oh, it doesn't work. We must get a new idea. It doesn't work. So, okay, again, a new idea. And finally, we found one idea in November, I guess. So quite late compared to the other factions.
See, I think we'll have a fun fact about the Italians later as well, because I think they are
Indeed.
very complicated compared to the other ones, or very complex is the one I'm looking for. Sorry. Yeah. And when we looked at all of these battle boards, we saw that you reused some of the Saga dice for the factions. So the question for you, that might not be a question for you, but a question for someone else, but might just be a question for you. Are there any new Saga dice planned at some point in the future?
Yes, there will be a Saga dice, but I don't know how many sets for the moment. I think between 1 and 3 sets.
Okay, so so the Saga dice for the that we saw on the battle boards are just there for the moment and will be changed.
Yes,
for release.
it's only for testing purpose.
I see. Okay.
Right, so that's good. Always looking forward to expanding my Saga dice collection.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the fun. I think what we probably want to do now is move on to the factions themselves. So we're not going to do a deep dive into the battle board. I think we have to wait until it's released.
Yeah.
But we will give people a small teaser about the battle boards themselves, and maybe a quick description of what we think the playstyle will be, and then just to get people hyped about the options. And I think this is also the first time that, first of all, it's 12 factions in total. So I think there was some questions about that in the past, but I'm glad you managed to get the Italians out. So we're going to talk about which factions, and then just a quick rundown. So I think it's maybe not super surprising that the first one, which is the English, the I suppose the main antagonist.
Hot one. Watch out, JP.
It depends on the point of view.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess the Anglo-centric view probably dominates our listeners, but who knows?
Yeah.
I've already made an English warband. I can confirm that the Perry English army set contains everything you need for. It's probably the most efficient warband to make in Saga officially now, which supersedes the the Gripping Beast Dark Age Warriors.
Which is that's tough.
I know. I managed to get the Dark Age Warriors in the Age of Chivalry, so it's good. But having a look at their board, I think it's fair to say what kind of it confirms to what people are expecting with the English. Lots of bows, lots of shooting, guys on foot, ready to basically beat down the people who stuck in the mud. Some of the kind of highlights that I picked up was that you have some Norman-like shooting. So 2L shooting. It's slightly less, but it's both less good than the Norman volley fire and better at the same time. But it's also very focused on fatigue and exploitation, and surprisingly good melee is how I would describe this faction. So I think there's a lot to go with. I think a lot of people are going to be picking up the English, myself included. But yes, how straight-jacketed were you when you were making the English? Was it you were looking at Agincourt and trying to recreate it, or?
Yes, there was a bit of that because we wanted a shooting faction, of course, but not a faction who would erase the enemy army only by shooting. We wanted to recreate the fact that generally archers were placed on the wings, with men-at-arms on foot on the center, And the shooting, I will try. I'm trying to get the word. Yeah, the shooting forced the enemy to charge the men-at-arms because they tried to be close to avoid the arrows. So a kind of we wanted to make a kind of a control shooting. I don't know if you see what I mean.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Sort of harassment and trying to funnel people into the
Yes.
men-at-arms, basically.
Yes. Perfectly said.
Okay. So I think large woods and other line of sight blocking terrain will be very popular.
Yeah, probably. Even if with one ability they can say the archers can stay in the open. The famous ability with a rule set of M.
Indeed. There's
Yeah.
if you look at some pictures maybe posted on Discord, you might be able to figure this one out. But yes. Tim, would you like to take the next one?
Yes. All right. So for the next factions, I think we talked about them before because Fabien, right?
Yes.
Your husband loves them, the Burgundians, and I think they are looking very interesting to me. They have, and that's the fun fact for them. They have some very good fatigue-free activations to shoot and to charge, and that's looking very good. Kind of scary, honestly. And so they seem like a very combined army. What's your favorite, or maybe Fabien's favorite thing about them?
He was mainly the author of this battle board, and he wanted to recreate a mix between the English style of play and the French style of play.
So cool,
because Burgundians have been influenced by both sides, and were allied of both sides at different time of the 100 Years' War.
They just switch around a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That's I think that worked perfectly, and now that you say that, that's clearly visible because yes, there are some of the good melee and the combined arms things from the English, and then there's also like the hero supporting and the resilience for the heroes and the Hearthguards. So I think that worked out perfectly. Yeah. JP, you ready to go into the next one?
Yes. So this is the Bretons. So they have I think it's a completely new mechanism in Saga, which is pretty exciting.
Yes.
Because it's I think we're already kind of approaching, I'm guessing like 100 boards, it feels like. Probably less. Probably 60.
No. It's a bit more. I think it's like it was 68 or something, 69 even, something around that. So it would be 81 now, I think.
All right. Yeah. So this is a pretty impressive to come up with a completely new mechanism. So the Bretons, I would say, is kind of like maybe a little bit more like a guerrilla faction, and they have two states basically, and a lot of the abilities essentially depend on the state of your opponent's battle board. So if they have some they have something on their board, they're being cautious, and then your abilities have one set of abilities or one set of outcomes, and then if you catch your opponent surprised and without anything on the board, you basically become a lot more aggressive, become a lot more kind of jump and cause more damage and more destruction on them. So I think, Tim, this was one of the ones that you were looking at.
I am so building these guys. Yes. They look so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they are fun to play.
Yeah,
I will probably say that of every faction, but
perfect. But I think that's a perfect. Yeah. That's such a good sign for a book that you've written, that you can be so proud of every faction and you want to play every one of them. I think, Julie, that's how it's supposed to be, and that's so cool.
Yeah.
In terms of including the Bretons, because I guess they're they're not a relatively minor player, but they are maybe less well known. I think they were also allied to the English for quite a long time, until maybe the end where they switched sides. How did you decide this one and maybe not some of the other ones?
For the Bretons, it was a bit the same choice as the Spanish. We will see later. They were not directly included in the not included. They did not participate directly at the Hundred Years' War, but there were succession wars. Yeah, I will try. And the English and the French took this succession wars as a secondary battlefield, if we want. Each one of them have their favorite to place at the head of the duchy. So it was a peripheral conflict of the period, but it was influenced by the English-French conflict.
Right, so I think you kind of teased the way into the next faction there, because you talked about the Spanish. So let's just talk about them now. The Castilians, I think they're called. So they're what maybe later became the Spanish area. So this is the Castilians. The Castilla is like the central area of what is Spain today, right? If I understand that correctly.
Yes, it was one of the kingdoms of the actual Spain and the territory of actual Spain. We did not call them Spanish to not add confusion with the Age of Crusade faction.
That makes tons of sense, of course.
But of course, you can take the Castilian battle boards and play the Kingdom of Aragon, the Kingdom of Portugal. There is no problem with that.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so they have one very interesting thing that jumps out to you immediately the first time you look at the board, and that's that they have the basic ability that's kind of like a movement, like a disengagement type ability where you can run away, I guess.
Yeah.
And you can do it over and over again, because some of the abilities actually load up a dice onto that basic ability. So, and you can, if I saw that correctly, you can do it when you shoot, when you get shot, or in melee. So that seems like that's a ton of fatigue-free movement that you can do right there.
Yeah. It's limited to mounted units to represent the fact that they have a lighter style of warfare than French, for example, because they had the habit to fight against Granada and all the Moors in the Moors. But they became heavier than in the Age of Crusade era. And this management of Saga dice who load up on the disengagement ability is fun to play too, because you have to think about what ability to play to place a die on your disengagement ability and so on. So you are playing with your battle board all the time.
That's so cool as well. The factions that you've built here, like so many of them, I'm like, damn, I really want to play these guys. So take it away, JP.
Yeah, so the next one is the Écorcheurs, so I guess the mercenary companies who haven't been paid and are just pillaging the countryside while they're
they are called the free companies in English generally.
Free companies. Okay.
Yeah.
So they are basically a motley crew of lots of different equipment options, and I guess one way of describing them is really a way of messing with your opponent. They're kind of like a slightly more organized brigand band, messing around with everyone, placing fatigue on units that you don't expect. just generally messing around, and it seems I think the equipment options are also pretty that you can choose a lot of things, and I think this is a really interesting concept as well, because it basically means you can probably just build a warband, and then if you want to try something else, just throw together basically different units, and then you have a whole new warband, and it's like they're just brigands anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I think it's a really interesting way as well, just to kind of make it very, very easy to just kind of step aside, play a different warband for a little bit with these écorcheurs, and try a completely different style of play. So I'm pretty excited about this one, and I'm also just gonna kind of smash together 2 different warbands that I'm making, and kind of play it that way, and make it easier for myself.
All right, next up are the Scots. They have, and I think we see that in a few factions here, but they are one of the factions that have 2 sub-factions. So you made extra work to have different equipment pieces that are still like balanced with the board. Damn, well done. And I think one thing that jumped out to me, this is one of the factions that has the pikes on their warriors. And I asked you to confirm this, and you did, that the pikes basically have the same rules as the sarissas do from the ancient ages.
Yes.
And so these guys, with having the pikes on the warriors, I think they, for one of the sub-factions, I should say, the other sub-factions can have them on foot or mounted. And I think the pikes on the warriors, they're very interesting with this combined arms faction that wants to stay close together. What is your what do you think about the Scots, other than you love them?
Yes, with the sub-factions, we wanted to represent on one side the childrens, so the Scots in Scotland fighting against the English, and the Scots fighting in France, because Scotland and France have had signed a treaty, an alliance called the Old Alliance, and but they didn't use the same way to fight on the continent and on their island. So we wanted to represent this difference. And yes, I prefer the Old Alliance one because they are very, very aggressive. But yes, the Pike had some fun things to do. And with this battle board, we try to make the Earth Guard important. In every battle board, we try to make some ability available only to Earth Guard, so we see soldiers in armor in every army.
Makes sense, yeah, that's cool. And I think Hearthguard are sometimes a bit underrepresented in some of the factions, because it's just, I think for some factions it's just for the battle board it just makes more sense to take warriors. But if there's like an incentive to take Hearthguard because there's Hearthguard abilities that are very good, I think that's a cool way to get more Hearthguard on the table.
Yeah, but we'll see if it works.
Let's see, yeah.
All right, the next one is closer to home. It's the Flemish.
Yeah.
So obviously super important region, lots of wool. And what you're focusing on here is the kind of I guess the militias from the cities.
Yes.
They have a lot of really interesting rules. They also have some special equipment as well. So they have some kind of, I guess it's think of the Eastern Princes type wagon.
Yes.
To distract people with their loot. They have pikes, or the goedendags, so like I guess it's like a club with a spike on it. And the best way I could describe them was kind of a mix between Anglo-Danes and the Britons with pikes. So I don't know if that says anything to you, but that's kind of what came to mind when I was reading the battle board. So it looks like a very fun kind of militia-based warband, and I think you were trying to go for the battle of the golden spurs, kind of that
Yes,
type.
it was the
Is that
idea.
correct?
Yes, and also revolts during the Middle Ages, for example. Van Artevelde, I don't know how you pronounce it in Flemish.
That sounded pretty good to me.
Who has organized a revolt against the county of Flanders.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about this one. So I think this one's going to be like the third one I'm going to do. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a bit. It's the Levy faction of the supplement. I think we can say it too. Don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, levies might be very good here.
Yeah, they are very interesting. Generally, during our playtest, we played with minimum two, generally 3 points of levies.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next up, the counterpart to the English, the antagonist, protagonist, whatever you want to call it, really. It's the French.
Yeah.
So yay, we made it to the French. So the French have two sub factions as well, and I think I can't do them the honors that you can. So I just want to say one thing about them, and then I'll let you talk about this faction that might be close to your heart as well. So they have one of the two sub factions has crossbow levy, which I know many people are very excited for and very scared about. And so I thought I'd put that in here. And I think you talked about them being a bit aggressive and having like big charge ranges and doing lots of aggressive stuff with their warlord. So Judy, tell us some more stuff about the French.
Okay, so yeah, we wanted to obviously represent a more aggressive playstyle than English. We didn't put how do we say that, impetuous rules that we generally see in medieval rule sets, because I think it will depend on the player. Some players will play them very cautiously, will plan cautiously their charges, and other players, I'm sure, will try to charge turn 1 or turn 2 and perhaps die in the mud, but with a bit of panache, as we say in French.
It's like you die with style, though, so it's
yes. And yes, the sub-factions, you have one sub-faction for the 100 Years War, so a classic one, and a sub-faction for what we call the Ordnance Army, so later armies when different kings, and even it's the same for the Duchy of Burgundy. Some lords tried to make a kind of more permanent army. It's not a permanent army as we call them now, but it was a premise, a beginning. And also in the later sub-faction, the Ordnance Army, you have access to caparison for the horses, who have the same rules as cataphracts in Age of Invasion.
Right, yeah. Right, that's a bit scary.
Yeah, so I think it's also going to be a very, very popular faction to play. And the next one was one of the ones I was looking forward to see the most. I'm super happy it's included, and that's the Hussites.
Yeah.
So this, like, you can't have a Hussite faction without including the war wagons, and there's definitely war wagons. You could take multiple wagons.
Yes,
And,
you can take 3 if you are very
brave.
You're very
yes,
brave.
I don't know if we want to play.
And there's some
many of them.
yeah, and there's also some very interesting rules as kind of people, or if your units are close to them, and they get buffs, and yeah, it's a very, very interesting faction. I would like to put them on the table as a proxy and just kind of try them out a little bit, because it's there's a lot of interactions between the war wagons, the units, moving fatigue around, quite some powerful shooting as well. I think there's a kind of a hint at gunpowder weapons on the war wagons as well.
Yeah.
So
it's the same rule.
So it's yeah. I'm actually looking forward to seeing this, either again playing against me, or maybe I'll build one, the fourth one now, to try this out. But if you like chariots, and if you like kind of rabble and fanatical people, this warband will be for you. And maybe one question was, how difficult was it to integrate the war wagons into Saga, and kind of make them the center of this warband?
The difficulty was more to not make the only center of the battle board, because on our first draft of the battle board, it was too wagon centered. The troops, apart from the wagons, did nothing, so we had to adjust the abilities so everyone had a place in it. And the difficulty was to create the profile of the war wagon to make it interesting, because it costs 1 point, so you must give people the desire to integrate it in their warband, and but not too powerful too. So because contrary to the Flemish wagon, with similar to the Eastern Prince, the used war wagon can benefit from Saga abilities. So, but I think we have found a kind of balance now.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's going to be fun to see lots of people putting them on the table. So I'm looking forward to it. So again, super excited.
All right, next one, and JP, we didn't plan this, but we got exactly the right factions to talk about. So next one is the Germans. Are the Germans? So, and I think in a prior draft, you called them the Holy Empire.
Yes.
And now they're called the Germans. So I'm very happy about that, of course. And I think for these ones, the fun fact that I have written down here is that JP's only building them to shout some fake German stuff at games, because that's just something that he enjoys. So now with that out of the way, I think they're incredible at managing fatigue, and and just kind of using the fatigue and other abilities to survive, to live for a long time, to be very, very tough. What do you have to say about the Germans?
The first draft of the Germans, I must recognize it, was written by Alex. Because we didn't have especially an idea. We don't really know the history of the Holy Roman Empire. I admit it.
That's tough, though.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I feel offended, but it's okay.
So we have reworked it, because on the first draft you could put many fatigue on your enemy warband, so you don't have to use your abilities. You just put fatigue everywhere, and okay, you could run like that. But now, yes, I think we have achieved a kind of balance with you can put a bit of fatigue, and you must choose mainly to exploit the fatigue with the current rules in the rulebook to increase or decrease your armor, or you can discard fatigue to benefit from some Saga abilities, and some of them are really, really violent. So
yeah,
the auto hits for the guards are really awesome.
Yeah, looking like they can survive a lot, but can be pretty deadly as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. So this is my current
Yes,
current
your
one.
nickname.
It's currently on the painting table, but super excited to play this one, and also very interested to see that the Swiss will be making a
Yeah.
entry. So along with the Burgundians, the Swiss
Of
will be joining the field of battle, and I think you've made again a very interesting mechanic here because you've kind of switched it up again, and the equipment options and unit options are actually quite limited. So you can't take any Hearthguard. So it's kind of symbolizing that the Swiss are being taken from kind of like the, I guess the general free folk of Switzerland being recruited and kind of sent out either to fight the enemies of the Swiss or to as mercenary units. And you have a very interesting way because you don't have Hearthguard and you don't have the Warlord.
Yep.
And instead, you get back what can best be described a Death Star unit, which kind of cannibalizes the rest of the warband as the game goes on. So, yeah, I was very. I had to read the rules a few times to see how this was going to go, but I think it's going to be quite a powerful one. If we look at the ancients, we have the Thebans and their large units of warriors, and I think you will have a similar type of play style here with the Swiss. But I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about how you came to this unusual design choice.
Yeah, the Swiss begin to be independent, in fact, from the Holy Roman Empire and from other states of the period. And so they don't have this pattern of an army raised by the recruited by the king or by an aristocracy. More normal folk, as you said, who are recruited to fight and to defend the Swiss and to fight their enemies. And I think quickly we didn't want to give them Earthguard because in our mind it didn't have any sense to have a kind of leader figure. So yes, and instead we decided to give the leader rules to one unit. The main unit is called the Geltut. And next the difficulty was to make a balance between this big unit. You must keep alive the longer you can because they have all the interesting rules, and the rest of the units. So we try to not give access to every ability to the leader unit. And yes, and next the other challenge was to balance an army who doesn't have cavalry at all, apart from mercenary units, of course. So, but they can be pretty quick, and they have very good surprises for their opponents.
I think they look very interesting, and JP, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It takes a while to kind of understand that you don't have a warlord. You just have that. You just have the Gewalthut unit that's like the center of your battle, and that's basically like needs to do stuff, but it's also kind of scary for it to do stuff. It's very cool. All right, now the problem child, the one that you've been working on and revising 15 million times. The Italians.
I love him anyway, but yes.
Yeah, they have 4 sub-factions. You have put tons of work into this, so they have they're kind of like the successors from Age of Alexander, with like the 4 sub-factions and the different equipment options that come with these sub factions.
Yeah.
And so that's very interesting, and also it seems like a ton of work, but it ends up being like very, very interesting because you can build the Italians just the way you want them to be. And they have these discipline tokens to give additional buffs to units. Can you tell us something about that? How you came up with that idea, or how that works exactly?
Yes, so we wanted to represent the discipline of the Italians because so when Fabien studied the Burgundian state, Burgundian armies have a lot of Italian mercenaries. So he has read several texts talking about the Italian of the period, and they had a reputation of discipline. So we wanted them to have good movement, a good management of the movement, and to make them quite polyvalent, so they can shoot, they can charge, they can move easily. So now the discipline tokens in the game, when you play Italians, each turn you can gain these tokens by activating units for different activation. For example, you activate a unit for a movement, you gain 1 discipline token. Then you activate a unit to shooting, you gain another discipline token. And the aim is to be disciplined, and for that you must have 3 tokens. And once you're disciplined, you have access to better Saga abilities. You have a base effect on several abilities, and a better second effect if you're disciplined. So it's a kind of mini game with yourself, and it requires to manage carefully all your activation.
Yeah, I think there's 5 ways to gain discipline, right? There's 1 Saga ability, and then move, charge, shoot, or
yes, or rest.
Or
resting is also a demonstration of discipline.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah. So yeah. That mini game that you included there, I think, looks so interesting, that the Italians, together with the other kind of new faction, with the surprising cautious, the Bretons, those are probably the factions I want to build, because I think you made them so interesting, and so like you can put so much brain power in playing them and seeing what your opponent does. It's so cool, and I'm really looking forward to them. I have one very important question, and I think I know the answer, and I think I'm gonna not like the answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Is there a banner in the Age of Chivalry, or is that not included? Because I would love to see a banner.
Oh no, it's like the heavy weapons. We didn't include them because we want people to paint as many banners as they want and in their units. So if we had put the war banner rule, I think people would have painted 1 banner for their army, and that's all. And I think it's a period where you can enjoy and put I don't know, 3 or 4 banners in a unit, and
of course
it's cool. It's cool.
So is there maybe and this is just Tim speaking, this obviously should mean nothing to you. Is there another way to include the rules for the banner, as in there's a trumpeter in the unit, or there's a guy with drums or whatever? Because I think the banner is such an interesting rule, and it always enables even more thinking about army building, because you're like, okay, maybe I should build them this way, and they might benefit from being 12 or 10 instead of. I think, it's just, I love the ages where there's a banner. Obviously, Age of Invasion, love it so much. So maybe just it's the end of January, and this is Tim, and it should mean nothing to you. I'm saying that again. Maybe there's a way to include the rules for the banner. That's it. Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. JP, please take it away.
So that's actually the end of the 12 factions. So we hope you got hype levels up. You probably have the Perry Miniatures website open right now.
I will call them and tell them to give me money.
Maybe we can arrange a kickback or something. But,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so super excited to have this time with you, Julie, to go through the factions. One last question: what faction are you building right now for this supplement, or have you built?
We have built quite generic factions to test everything we could. I'm currently painting some chariots for the photo because nobody has one. But yes, we have begun with French and English, of course, and we have painted some mercenary units to complete our collection.
So everything, basically.
Sounds good. Sounds right. Honestly, sounds right. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much, Julie. We're looking forward to seeing the supplement when it's ready, and going to be, I'm sure, like all the Saga books, beautifully presented and with lots of beautiful pictures. So looking forward to that. Yes, thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and thank you for taking the time to make the supplement as good as it can be. That's much appreciated.
Thank you very much, both of you.
All right. So I guess that's it for today's episode, and talk to you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.